pro game commentary as we see this is game 2 of JDG versus TES in week 4. In the previous game, we saw TES practically outdrafting and outplaying JDG at every stage of the game. As we load in to game 2, we see some quick differences coming out from the game 1 draft from JDG, opting to first pick away that Zoe from the hands of Knight, Knight of course on the Zoe, hitting some key long-range paddle stars and simply chunking out members of TES in a Baron take by TES. Knight practically held a entire corridor for himself. CS:GO style, that game is just something else. Don't even get me started. Anyways, so looking back into it, TES is as a response, TES opting for the Samira and the Gragas. Gragas, of course, could be flexed into every single lane pretty much. I don't really like the idea of Samira Gragas. I prefer the idea of Samira Rel, so I believe that this is a top lane Gragas, and as I say that, Rel is being hovered here. Wouldn't be surprised to see that locked in. TES, of course, did hover the Yone as well, and there is a good chance that JDG will opt to ban that out because Yone does have a pretty free time against the Zoe. Of course, he can also use his E in order to hop out of his body and then use the animation of recalling back to his starting soul point in order to cleanse out the Sleepy Trouble bubble. JDG, on the other hand, going for the Vayne and the Olaf as a response to the Samira Gragas that they saw. Aatrox ban coming out here from TES. Apparently, that they thought that was a bit too much of a problem. Of course, just a reminder for everyone, TES did go for the last pick, Camille pick in the last round. Let's see if JDG opt to ban out the Camille. A Victor ban coming out instead, aiming for Knight's champion pool. Knight apparently very happy with that, probably had no intentions of playing that champion. Some good top lane as well as mid lane picks still available in the pool. Of course, the Orianna still up, as is the Camille and the Ngar, Jace and the Gangplank. And as I say that, Ngar is plucked out of the champion pool into the ban area. JDG here, I'm pretty sure it's a top lane Gragas, so there could perhaps look to ban out a jungle. However, Olaf doesn't really have too many uncomfortable matchups. Can potentially get counterpicked by the Kindred, but Kindred would go against TES's composition right now. TES is very much a dive-in composition. Lilia is a potential ban they could look to here, as well as Talia. Talia Yone could potentially be extremely powerful for the members of TES. They beautifully round out their composition. And actually a Jace ban coming out into a straight insta-lock Orianna pick coming in here from TES. This is pretty exciting. Looks like they've given it some thought and they realize, yep, this is exactly the way we want to go. So far though, I must say, I would like to see a bit more someone to dive in there with Jackie Love going into this game, because if you look at the team composition, who's gonna jump in there? Gragas might jump in, but he might blow everyone away, which is kind of creates a bit of anti-synergy with the Orianna and the Rel. So far it looks like if Jackie Love jumps in, he could potentially set up for his team, or if the Rel jumps in, she could also set up for his team. Unfortunately, I don't think you really want your Samira to jump in first, as the Renekton is locked in for JDG. Alistar was hovered. I kind of like the Alistar. However, Leona does provide that peel and that instant CC for the Samira, as well as a good long range engage, which looks to be what JDG are playing for now. JDG have a pretty simple team composition, very top side of the map dependent until the late game where the Vayne is activated. TES with more decisive picks coming in. Karsa picking out that Trundle. Not quite sure what he plans to do with it. I suppose the Trundle pillar. Trundle has been considered a soft counter to Olaf because of course you can steal away some of the AD by using your Q onto the Olaf. You can also steal away some resistances from the Ragnarok and roll with your subjugation ultimate. Of course, Olaf, the only thing that can really stop him, since CCs can't stop him, is terrain. So to a certain extent, the Trundle pillar can block off Olaf, and perhaps in a small choke point can stop him from coming at you entirely. But yet again, I'm not an entirely big fan of this. Of course, Trundle does have the added benefit of fitting pretty decently into TES's team composition, because Trundle can create areas and slow zones that make it easier for your team to run at the enemy team. If you knock up the enemy AD carry and they slide a bit more towards you, that's less distance for your team to jump and capitalize on them. Now, all things considered, looking at both the compositions, I am personally not a fan of the Samira pick because I feel like Samira very much defines your entire team composition and takes away all of that mystery and that allure that you might have previously had. Also, as a Samira, I'm not quite sure I want to be jumping into a Renekton or an Olaf, and not the least, I'm pretty sure I don't want to jump into a Leona. So much CC actually coming in from the side of JDG, mainly from the top lane and the support, admittedly, but that's still plenty, especially since your team composition seems to revolve quite heavily around you, with the Gragas top side not going to provide much damage, going to mainly be a tanky damage source. That being said, we have seen Nuguri going up against the Shy, going for that AP Gragas with the Grasp of the Undying on 369 right now. That doesn't look to be the case, as level 1 looks to be a pretty calm and relaxing start to the game. Doesn't look like we're gonna see too much action coming in here. So which team scales better? It's hard to say because Zoe scales decently, Vayne exceptional scaler. Renekton tends to fall off because it's pretty hard for you to catch up to opponents. That being said, when your opponent's team composition is completely revolved around jumping into you to do damage, I suppose Renekton is a stellar pick here because Renekton does fall off because he has a hard time catching up to people, of course. And if your enemy runs into you, you don't need to catch up to people. People gonna be running into you. So actually, in this game, I'm very much liking JDG's composition a little bit more. However, composition is only a quarter to maybe a third of a determining factor to how the game should go. Let's see how the players play this out. Even if you have the most exceptional Theo crafting ever, as Loken is jumped on, he has to flash, is ignited, looks like he's gonna be killed level 1 to the last bullet coming in from Jackie Love. Zor and Jackie Love going for their usual aggressive plays, and Loken and Love Mao not respecting the level 1 potential of this Samira Rel. Of course, Samira Rel kind of like the Aphelios Thresh bot lane in a way, always picked together pretty much. Rel, of course, can work with many other AD carries, and Samira can work decently with other AD carries as well. And start of the split, Alistar was considered to be Samira's one true pairing. Unfortunately for the Lakao, looks like Rel has stepped up and taken that place as a beautiful turn of events. Already 2 minutes into the game, a 500 gold lead going over to the side of TES, thanks to a very beautiful 2v2 all-in kill going on to Jackie Love, I do believe, which is even better if you think about it. Now, Karsa, kind of curious how he's going to be doing this jungle pathing, actually doing a 4 camp clear. Most likely will have the time to finish off his 5th camp before the Scuttle contest. Now, his bot lane is coming in now. I'm not sure if they'll be in time to help him contest this Scuttle. Olaf against Trundle early on is... I'm not really sure whose game it is. Olaf with the Conqueror will probably benefit from a long drawn out fight. Karsa, of course, going for the PTA means that he will most likely do a fair bit of damage. That being said, let us see how it goes. Topside looks to be a no man's land of just two bruisers, one bruiser and one tank just slapping it out of each other. Karsa realizing that he doesn't want to attempt a contest on the bottom side. Scuttle Crab actually opts to go for the top side one. Will be spotted out by that ward in the river planted there by Yagao, as Olaf is in the bot side. Kanavi taking the bottom side Scuttle Crab. So far priority in most lanes going over to the side of JDG, which means Karsa will be pushed away from this Scuttle Crab. Yagao stepping up aggressively, knowing that his top laner is in the area as well as his jungler is here. Looks like a double Scuttle going over to the side of Kanavi, kind of to be expected with the Trundle pick. Then again, there's nothing really that you can pick to counter this immensely strong Olaf's early game. So I believe nothing to fault here. It's not really the pick's fault. The Olaf just kind of secures it for you. In the top side, 369 seemingly doing a decent job keeping up in CS for now. Of course, the Gragas lane is pretty easy into the Renekton. You just max out the body slam and you just throw the crocodile around. If he tries to slice towards you, you body slam him. If he tries to dice to you after that, you take a swig of the casket and your tankiness kind of fixes you up alright. The regeneration from Gragas' passive is pretty insane, as is the resistances you get from your W. Now, it looks like the junglers are just going to their second round of clearing. As we see in the top side, plenty of sustained damage coming in from Zoom. as a bunch of pings are going down in the top side as well as the mid lane of on top side of TES's jungle, and the mid lane of JD Dragon is spawning in a few seconds. Olaf, of course, will be in the area, and perhaps after clearing his Krugs, or maybe even before, can potentially look to jump on that. That being said, you must keep in mind that TES does have the stronger early game duo, as we just saw, and they can potentially be a huge threat. Knight teleporting back into the mid lane to try and get some priority back to ensure that Dragon is not gifted over too easily, as Karsa is falling slightly behind on CS. Now, looking at these two compositions, who is stronger early? I think in the bot side, TES is most definitely stronger early. Both the mid laners kind of cancel each other out. That being said, Karsa is most definitely weaker than Kanavi at this point in time, and Jackie Love does not have his ultimate, which is a big part of Samira's damage and a big part of what makes her threatening. So I don't think TES is going to try for any contest. Gonna try and start up this dragon until Samir hits level 6. That being said, Karsa is posturing quite malignantly towards that dragon and instead just opts to channel his recall. Kanavi in the bottom side is one camp away and maybe even two shared experience away from hitting level 6. Looking to start up this dragon, it seems, realizing that Samira hitting 6 is TES's window of opportunity to go for this dragon, and he wants to capitalize on the fact that they do not have that ultimate. TS recognizing also what JDG's plan are, just recall their bottom lane to get some item advantages going into this, as the first dragon goes uncontested over to the side of JDG. Now, Karsa does have the opportunity to perhaps look for a little bit of a counter jungling in the top side of Kanavi's jungle, as his camps are spawning up now. As opposed to that, Kanavi has nothing to take over here from TES's jungle, because Karsa, in spite of his champion pick, has actually been doing a stellar job with the clearing. Kanavi just hit 6, is posturing down here. Will TES get engaged on? They do, as Lamau jumps on to Jackie Love, but Kanavi playing so patiently in the bush, not stepping out at all, waiting for Jackie Love and Zor to jump in, but very much to the surprise of many, as well as Kanavi himself, I think, Jackie Love and Zor opting to use their abilities to retreat rather than jump in. Of course, for those of you who do not know TES's bot lane, last year with Yuyanjia, Jackie Love was known to be incredibly aggressive, eing forward with the Ezreal. In fact, this season so far, if it's proven anything, it's that Zor, TES's newest player and their support pickup, is even more aggressive, as we see Jackie Love jumping on to Loken. Loken being jumped onto, Flash coming out from Zor to continue up the CC. Lovemaul could do nothing but stand there as his AD carry is cut down before his very eyes with the sword and the blade and gun of Jackie Love. Poor Kanavi sitting in that bush there patiently. However, nothing happens until he leaves. Jackie Love and Zor, great synergy coming in, seemingly very, very aware of where Kanavi would be, how dangerous it would be if he were to be there. And in the top side, Zoom is getting some tower plating. There's a silver lining to all of this. I kind of expected Kanavi to play more towards the top side in this early game, because I don't think you're going to get very much from the Vayne and the Leona, as we see a Jackie Love using his E to engage and getting the follow-up stun from Zor, and then following that, Zor just flashing in to get the auto attacks in, as well as try and perhaps line himself up for an easier W. In the end, it wasn't even necessary, however, as the E itself was enough, along with the damage of Jackie Love, to take out the opposing AD carry. Rift Herald is up on the map, has been for the last 30 seconds. That being said, Karsa and Zor teaming up for some invades, feeling confident enough in the power of the bottom lane that they have. That being said, Jackie Love has yet to push up, and he will be a bit late on the rotation. Loken simply counter jungling his own jungler, realizing that he cannot afford to step up, or the same thing that has happened just now will happen again. They will just have a series of Jackie Love jumping in onto Loken and the follow-up CC coming in from Zor in order to take him out, especially with Jackie Love arriving at level 6, that power point that we previously alluded to. He is going to be able to stack up his passive as well as begin gunning down Loken even faster. And as though to stress my point further, Loken has even rotated across the map towards this top side to try and get some tower plating. Now that I think about it, JDG is in a horrible spot. That level 1 was truly horrible. Oh my god, beautiful engage coming in there from 369, forcing out the flash from Kanavi. Kanavi taken solo. Manages to drop the Herald first, however, as Herald does secure first tower goal, going over towards both Loken as well as Kanavi. Meanwhile, on the bottom side, Jackie Love and Zor just having a field day with Karsa, also taking most of the playthings. Zoa actually has rotated into the mid lane to ensure that his mid laner does not get doven by any potential looks from JDG as Zoom arrives in time to watch the tower fall before his very eyes. Actually looks like he'll be in position to defend it. That being said, Karsa denies that. Zoom popping his ultimate. Karsa trying to run out, does have his ultimate, is a bit low on mana, but Jackie Love running in, pops the ultimate. Unfortunately, Love Mao going in to try and finish up Karsa, but Karsa has the sustain, is ignited in the end, but Love Mao is left to dry from the gun and blade of Jackie Love, who simply auto attacks him to death. Jackie Love is huge. 4-0, 10 minutes into this game. Also 20, nearly 30 CS up on his counterpart in Loken. Loken still on the top side, getting to free farm as Zoom is tossed quite literally to the crocodiles. That is Jackie Love and Zwo wasn't even in there actually. Jackie Love and Karsa in the bot side, trying to stem the bleeding as best as possible in this bottom side. Unfortunately, stepping up too aggressively in hopes of trying to make plays and getting absolutely destroyed by Jackie Love. Jackie Love untouched in that entire fight. Does have his cleanse now for the dragon fight that will be starting up in perhaps the next minute or so as dragon spawns in 30 seconds. Both supports seemingly leaving their AD carries to their own devices and coming to this mid lane to try and secure as much priority as possible. Draw over the wall with Hex Flash could potentially be said to be looking for something here. Now, with the stronger bottom lane, it's obvious that TES has a huge advantage going into this dragon contest. There really isn't much to say about that. Zoom's progression also has been slightly stymied by that last death. But that being said, 369, in spite of being fairly even on CS, seems to be a little bit of a distance away from completing his mythic item, as Jackie Love instead opting to rotate towards the top lane to secure more plating. Of course, before 14 minutes, the playthings mean so much and dragons mean a little bit less, as Lamau is going to face check across the corner into Karsa as well as Zor. Flashes away from the W, but the pillar knocks him back in Solar Flare to try and peel himself away from the two people, as a flash coming in and a Rel ultimate coming in. An Orion ultimate coming in from Knight actually misses completely, but the ignite from Zor look to finish off Love Mao. Unfortunately, it was gifted over to... Fortunately, actually, it was gifted over to Knight, as Jackie Love, again, just soaking up tower plating after tower plating, practically at 7 tower plating so far. 369 getting some damage taken onto him, however, just healing it back up with a swig of his cast or a roll of his belly. Knight in the mid lane just trading a little bit back and forth, gets hit by Sleepy Trouble Bubble. Zor pops out to defend his mid laner, as Jackie Love honestly having the time of his life. He is PvEing at this point because of the fear that he inspires in the members of JDG. Actually tanking up the tower, does have the Immortal Shield Bow to lifesteal up all of that HP back, and just like that, Jackie Love is looking to get 10 platings for himself. Loken, being on the other side of the map, is 2 levels down. All that roaming, I suppose the roaming vein isn't really the way to go. Loken looking for the 1v1 perhaps, as the auto attack flies across the map to meet Jackie Love in his base. Now, no objectives left on the map means that 369 TES is most likely going to return Jackie Love towards the top side, maybe even the mid lane, to try and secure even more playthings. There is about 45 seconds to go before playthings are taken off the map and dragon priority becomes slightly more important. Rift Herald doesn't look to be spawning in time for any additional playthings for the side of either TES or JDG. Oh, actually, Jackie Love heading back towards the top lane, wanting to secure that tower for his team. Quite happy to have his support just roaming around with his jungler. Both of them, of course, shadowing him up here in full view of JDG. Good wards coming out here from JDG as Loken realizes he is in a host of trouble. Blue buff looking to be taken away as Yagao trying to perhaps set up a steal with the Sleepy Trouble Bubble, and the damage coming in. Smite comes in from Kanavi, stealing away Karsa, is hit by the Undertow, uses the pillar to disengage. However, in spite of being fairly behind, about 2,000 gold, JDG are still looking to make some plays, which is admirable to say the least. However, Jackie Love at this point, if he gets a single ultimate off, I think he will utterly shred the members of JDG. It will look like the most broken mobile Katarina ult you have ever seen in your life. So far, a bunch of pinks going down in the river below Jackie Love as Scuttle Crab is the next point of contestation. You know LPL, they will fight for everything. They will fight for objectives. They will fight for blue buffs. They will fight for minions. In fact, it looks like hopefully not amongst themselves as Love Mouse in position does have his ultimate channeling his Hex Flash. Knight has no idea, is exhausted by Yaga. Beautiful flash coming out from Knight to dodge so flash sidestepping the E as well as Love Mouse trying his best with the help of Yaga. Unfortunately, nothing much going on here. Yaga picking up the flash to perhaps look for a long range snipe with a paddle star. Meanwhile, in the bottom side, T369 actually losing out in terms of CS slightly, however, has finished his chem tank finally, which means his power level does equate Zoom's in terms of items. That being said, Zoom is still in the strong part of his Zoom Renekton is still quite strong, but you know, Gragas with the E max at this point is just having the time of his life throwing the crocodile around. Of course, if you've ever seen LECS, Yaga is jumped on by the roaming duo that is Duo and Karsa, and Knight comes in as well. I think Yaga is literally stuck between a pillar and a wall, or a rock and a hard place, depending on how you look at it. So far, this roaming duo of Duo and Karsa have brought absolute death and destruction to the side of JDG everywhere they are seen, everywhere they roam. As Rift Herald is looking to be the next point of contestation in the bot side. 369 looking like he's going to be doven by the combined power of Zoom and Kanavi, using his ultimate to try and bring Zoom into the tower, forcing out his flash, but Kanavi pops the rock and roll and is Zoom nearly gets taken out by 369. Beautiful play coming in there. Kanavi was just there to finish up the job as bot tower looks to be taken by JDG while the Rift Herald is traded across the map for the side of TES. Nice little blow for blow coming in here for both teams. Nice to see that JDG still have the fighting spirit that we know top LPL teams to have. Not one to go silently into night, one to go kicking and screaming, hopefully bring the enemy into that night that we speak of. Now Zuo, Jackie Love back towards the bot side lane he has yet to see, and while Yaga just face checking into two beefy CC filled members of the team. As you see, Yaga actually flashing into the rock and the hard place position, which was mighty unfortunate, I must say. Not quite sure where he was planning on going with that flash. Dragon is spawning in 20 seconds, and this time TES with nothing to take across the map, not a Rift Herald or a tower plating, in fact not even a tower in sight in the top lane, looks to contest this Dragon buff. Now, like I said previously, Jackie Love is extremely fed and the advantage is definitely towards the side of TES. That being said, the team compositions most definitely also, the way the team composition is there is a chance for JDG to make some plays. Like I said, the point and click CCs coming in from the Leona and Renekton could potentially be extremely disruptive and lethal to the damage output of Jackie Love. That being said, a flank is coming around from the side of JDG. 369 is in position. That Tribush is completely unwarded. Yaga gets face checked by a belly slam as Zor jumps in using his ultimate. It's a 5v5 brawl. Yaga gets brought down first. Kanavi flashing onto Jackie Love. Jackie Love just like stealing up with his ultimate. Is shielded up in the end. However, it is not much. Zor is just being chased around by Zoom as Loken is being chased around by 369. In the end, Zoom is the only player left alive from JDG amidst 5 members of TES. Will he be able to make a play here? Could potentially one-shot Jackie Love if he manages to get on him, unfortunately, using the slice and dice to try and get away, but he's really not going to get anywhere as Jackie Love just life stealing up all the essence from that crocodile. Juicy crocodile juice. And Dragon goes over to TES, not even a consolation prize, as a very clean sweep coming out there from TES. No one but the Olaf able to get on top of the Jackie Love, and Jackie Love just unleashing the full power of his ultimate, drain tanking the Olaf's damage. That was fairly unfortunate as Yaga, I'm pretty sure, was taken out of the fight extremely fast, face checking, as I previously mentioned, into the belly of 369, and from that point on, I pretty much lost him in the melee that ensued. There really was just everyone jumping in on top of each other. Zoom trying his best to get a return kill onto Zor in that fight, unfortunately not even able to get that, as a 5k gold lead is built in favor of TSFC in that fight. 369 just throwing Yaga actually into his team. Beautifully played. And then Jackie Love just tanking up the damage from, oh my goodness, poor Loken just bounced around first by the body slam of 369, then by the pillar coming out from Karsa as he is slowly but surely blunt force traumatized and scorched to death by the auto attacks, body slams, as well as the burn damage coming in from the chem tank. And Zoom just pretty much getting the same treatment, a lot of bouncy castle treatment coming in here from the side of TES. Now it's getting me wondering whether this Gregor's pick was more to deny it from JDG, as actually Love Mao jumping onto Knight into the hands of Zor as the ultimate coming in, only managing to pull one away, teleport coming in over the wall. Loken with a nice flank. Knight is being focused down. Oh, Kanavi gets focused down even faster as Jackie Love unleashing his ultimate onto Loken is condemned backwards. Yagao is going so deep to try and finish off Knight. Unfortunately, his greed will lead to his demise as Karsa is now chasing up, does have his pillar, I believe, in a few short seconds. That choke point could be lethal for Zoom as the rest of his team is behind him. Zoom using a side step to get his E off. Oh, teleport coming in here from Knight. Knight wanting blood. Zoom is slowed by the pillar as he uses his ultimate flash coming out from 369 to keep him in position. Unfortunately, the Gore Drinker coming in from Zoom is not enough to keep himself alive, and a chase down kills lead to a easy Baron take for the side of JDG. So TES. Loken is in the bottom side there after being pushed out of the fight, just trying to get whatever resources he can to try and make himself as strong as possible. Unfortunate turn of events as 3 more kills go over to the side of TES, while the members of JDG, one after another, trying to capitalize on what they thought was Knight's mispositioning, turns out to be Knight's master baiting, I suppose. As, oh god, am I allowed to say that? Well, he was a master baiter in that situation, as he brought Love Mao and Yagao to their deaths, and Kanavi as well, who, Kanavi, I thought he was going to explode Knight with one of those reckless swings. Unfortunately, he was the one to... It looks like the damage that you take from reckless swings is just much more than the damage you deal in this game mode of TES versus JDG Summoner's Rift style, because Kanavi surely died in 2 seconds. Now, the next point of contestation on the map for neutral objectives will be the Dragon in 2 minutes. That being said, with Baron buff, TES can look to push down a lane, and looks like they have selected mid lane. 369 is in the bottom side of the jungle, looking to provide some safety for Zor to set down some wards. Jumps on to Zoom, dealing tons of damage. By the way, this is a full tank Gragas, guys, as his body slam comes off cooldown in like 4 to 5 seconds. He's having a field day. There is no way that Zoom can stand before him right now. It's quite metaphorically and quite literally is that the case, as the body slams coming in will keep him moving, throw him up, and it looks like 369 along with TES are absolutely unstoppable in this situation. Teleport coming in down here as Karsa is jumped on by Kanavi, and Zoom nearly taken out, is sniped out by the back there by Yaga. Unfortunately, Yaga landing returning back to his portal is met by Zor, and Zor just stuns him out. And Zor flashing in, actually getting the kill onto Loken. That's insane. I thought he was going to be taken down by that last auto attack. Kanavi just tanking up the damage from Knight. Unfortunately, Knight definitely does have the damage to take him out. Love Mao and Zoom under the tower, getting their wave proxy. Will have to proxy the other wave as well if they want to stay alive. Unfortunately, them staying alive comes at the price of the mid lane inhibitor and potentially some Nexus turrets, if not the entire game. The death timers are pretty short though, in like 15 seconds. Both AD carry as well as the mid lane of JDG will be out. However, by the time they come out, it looks like the twin towers that are the Nexus turrets will soon fall. Love Mao is in position waiting for some damage to spawn, and just like that, 22 minutes into the game, this could be a potentially extremely fast game as Jaw jumps away using his W to get some... Oh, beautiful stun coming in there. Beautiful turn of events. Knight ultimate into Jackie Love, dashing in, Enzo providing the long range chain breaking stun. Jackie Love pretty much playing a game of norms at this point, zoning 2 members of JDG from saving their Nexus from the Baron buffed enhanced minions, and just like that, a 23-minute game going over to the side of TES. It was simply that initial 2v2 bot lane kill 2 minutes into the game, which simply snowballed the game so heavily into their favor. Of course, some beautiful map plays, map movements, as well as flanks coming out from, and team fighting, of course, coming out from the members of TES. That was a absolutely stellar performance. They just dismantled JDG in every sense of the word. There was nothing good that came out of that VOD for JDG. They just got absolutely tossed around and smacked up, kind of what Zoom felt in the top side, playing as that Renekton into that Gragas. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, there really isn't much to say about that. I guess we'll catch you for the next video. See ya!